issues put before them. However, experts say women care to a greater degree than men about issues of war and peace, the poor, and equality. And because of the sheer number of women voters, politicians have to pay attention to whatever differences may exist.
Susan, it's probably the most frivolous issue of all, but how many women, or is there any way of knowing how many women, vote for a male candidate because they find him attractive?
These are the faces of the first members of the League of Women Voters. Leaders of the fight for women's suffrage, these women looked beyond that victory and founded an organization that would educate women and men on the importance of using that vote wisely. From the beginning, the League had a dual mission. First, to encourage the active and informed participation of citizens in government and to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and second, to secure public policies that promote League goals. Then, as now, the League bases its work on thorough, objective study of social problems, followed by inclusive consensus decision-making. Study often leads to action on topics such as international trade, groundwater protection, and the family. With over 200,000 members and donors in the 1,000 local leagues spread throughout all 50 states and American territories, the League of Women Voters has been a national leader in tough issues like campaign finance reform and the recent motor voter victory.
Motor voter will get more Americans on the rolls and to the polls.
The senator expressed surprise today that women opposed increased military spending and cuts in social services.
Wait till he finds out we got the vote.
That's part of the League's purpose, I believe, is citizen education. We were founded to do that, to teach women the power to vote and what a vote means.
These are the faces of the League of Women Voters today.
My interest has always been in social welfare.
The League structure parallels the American government, organized at the local, state, and national levels.
You have diverse groups or diverse people that come together in leagues, and they come from many backgrounds and professions. But we have to come together on consensus on issues, and as a group we have to decide what is important and what's going to drive the League for our county.
The League's hallmark is its unique grassroots approach to study and action. Every National League position is based on nationwide study and consensus among its members.
We don't go off after the issue of the month. We think about things and study them over time.
Our studies are well accepted. When we come out with a decision and speak, especially at the legislature, which we're doing right now, they listen.
Recently, the League involved its members in a nationwide study on the complex issue of national health care reform.
Our league and a lot of leagues around the country were working on health or health care for the elderly or health care for children for many years before there was a national health care study. So when there was a national study, it had exceptionally high member league participation throughout the country.
Well, we had a discussion guide that was distributed by the National, and the discussions at all of our units focused on those things.
And having reached consensus, now we are ready for action.
Over the next few months, you're going to hear a lot about health care reform.
In addition to the League's National Action Campaign, the League of Women Voters Education Fund sponsored an extensive citizen education campaign.
A lot of people think that most uninsured Americans are poor and unemployed. Not true. In fact, 84% of Americans who lack health insurance are in families that work hard and pay taxes, but don't get health insurance on the job. That's 8 out of 10 of us. And that's a fact.
The League's national agenda is always derived from local League priorities.
In D.C., we have a Children at Risk committee. One of my children ran into a lot of the violence that's happening and the fear that's happening in high school, and decided it was too hostile and unfriendly an environment for her, and dropped out. At first I didn't believe her, but then when children started getting shot, that definitely lets me know that, we need to really set some other things aside and focus on this.
Jane Snyder is coordinating the work of 5 committees in her local league who are all focusing on the issue of the child.
We've got to be the voice that speaks up. We've got to be the people who organize it and push it ahead.
On Growing Up in America by Sylvia, page 1. Best to do it somewhere else.
Well, I'll tell you first how I got involved in solid waste. I was a contractor and
Many league members are able to contribute professional skills to league program.
all of a sudden I ended up as the director of solid waste for the district government. I'm a sanitary engineer. I'm a water and sewer man. I got into solid waste purely by accident. But with respect to the league does so many good things, and one of the things that they did for Prince George's County was to do a detailed solid waste study.
After the league study was complete, the state of Maryland mandated each county to write a 10-year plan for solid waste recycling and management.
Now the other counties are looking to Prince George's County as an example of how to do this. And as George said, this is somewhat based on what the league did in the county.
Spray and Wash gets out what America gets into.
Try it on toxic waste.
The strength of the league is its structure and its knowledge of the election process.
The Maryland State League had recently completed a statewide campaign on the issue of reproductive rights.
The anti-choice forces, of course, were very strong, and they decided to bring this issue to referendum. And you could bring
The focus of the referendum was to overturn a pro-choice bill called Senate Bill 162.
So when the Maryland for Choice came to us and said, we need an organization to do a absentee ballot project, will the league do this? And we said yes, because it's a league-like project. And what it meant was that we would receive a brochure from Maryland for Choice, and they printed that brochure. We would get them out to the local leagues. The local leagues then would go to the registrars of elections and their board, whoever, and get the names of the people who had filed for an absentee ballot.
But they were a very natural audience, because one huge group of people who file for absentee ballots is all your college students.
That's right. We actually raised the whole percentage point of the entire election.
The anti-choice referendum was defeated by a 64% pro-choice vote. The state legislature is considering a bill to require a woman seeking an abortion to post a notice of her intention at her local supermarket at least 72 hours before the procedure.
Why not put it on the internet?
You know, sometimes you'd almost think that the government is against people voting. I mean, there seems to be so many, she talked about language that people can't understand.
Lots of people find when you get close to elections that the Board of Elections either has a recording or has a strange name, which makes it difficult to find in the phone book. And so there seems to be an enormous belief out there among people who you wouldn't have known would have known that if you can't reach the Board of Elections, you call the League of Women Voters and you ask them where you vote, how you vote, where to get the voter's guide, who your elected officials are. And so the League plays an enormous role around that.
We can give everyone, regardless of what political party they belong to, they all have equal time in our voters' guides. If they can get on the ballot, they get in the voters' guides, and then everybody gets asked the same questions.
In Prince George's County, for the last election, we conducted TV debates for all the candidates.
But a forum that is held by the League is considered a nonpartisan one, and thus it is perhaps better attended because they feel that the League has no feathers to pluck, if you will.
And I think leagues all over the country, probably regardless of their size, all leagues are involved in voter service.
You have a job that you take on, and it is a small one if you're busy with children or job or both. And as you have more time, you take more responsibility. And I think that's the way it works.
when we testify, sometimes we're asked how many people you speak for. We're very happy to have the member who says, you know, I may not get to a single meeting this year, you know, but I believe in the league. Go out and count me when you testify. So we're delighted to have members who do that. We have a number of members who say, I may not get to a meeting this year, but I really read your newsletter and I count on those fact sheets. You know, we're delighted to have those members. We put the work into a study. We want to get it to as many people as we can.
The League really provides a model for dialogue and research. I found that in the League meetings that I attended, that everyone was encouraged to speak, which was different from some other public arenas where someone was grandstanding and holding the floor and not letting anybody else, or trying not to let other people speak. That the model with the League is for everyone to have a voice. And I think that's a really good model.
What's happening in the world right now, there's so much ferment and there's so much change. Part of the League's role, I think, should be to look at what kind of a world we're going to have and how we can continue to make sure that the things that are important are still considered. And that means that the League is really going to have to be more flexible itself, because we're going to have to look at things in new ways and say, how can we be responsive to the changes that are happening, such major changes that are happening in our world.
The League of Women Voters, a voice for citizens, a force for change.